And sweet at the same time.
I needed to know. It was important.
It's like there's Urban Dictionary for that, right? Apparently I am Urban Dictionary.
You're my Urban Dictionary.
Mm-hmm. I can help you.
Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Squirrels, Middle School Ministry Podcast. My name is Ronald, and I am sitting with the most beautiful guest I have ever had on my podcast, or will ever have on my podcast. And if you've not guessed from those context clues, I'm hanging out with my wife. This is my wife, Bekah.
Hello.
And we are hanging out in bed. The children are finally asleep. It's only taken 18 hours for them.
That's so real.
Oh my gosh. They're in bed. And, okay, you don't know this. This is fun. This is going to end up being episode 49. And so the next episode will be episode 50. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm going to do something epic.
That's good information to have.
I guess I'm going to do something cool with episode 50.
You should do that.
That's a thing podcasts should do.
I think you should do some kind of confetti graphic if possible.
Or just real confetti. Could I mail confetti to people? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, they actually do that. Whoever thought of that is now very rich.
They are rich, and I am not, because I'm a middle school pastor, and I've spent the last 49 episodes telling you about my middle school experience. But I wanted to let you hear from my wife, because she's really smart. And she's also really pretty, and I
like the buttering up that's happening.
This is great.
I've had a bad day, so not a bad day. A day was full of challenges.
There you go.
So this is nice. You can keep doing that.
You're wonderful. So that other people can know how amazing you are. Could you tell us, the 12 people who are listening right now? Could you tell them a bit about yourself, your story?
Oh, my story?
Sure.
Okay. Including like birth and
yes,
when I
beginning
lost my
with
first two.
the day you were born until now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm from Michigan. I was born in Michigan. I was the youngest for a little while until my parents adopted my younger sister when we were both 16.
I love that story.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We'll tell you that sometime. And then I went to college and met this guy.
Who couldn't run.
And then what else? I went to graduate school and had children at the same time.
We were married. We were
married
first.
Yeah, I guess we did that too.
We got married.
And then now I serve as a fitness professional at Gold's Gym.
You're a darn good one. But not just a fitness professional. They can come and visit you at your location.
Yes.
You are a fitness professional they can have with you in their pocket.
Oh, that's a very good way to put it. Yes, I'm also a contributor to the Gold's AMP app.
Yeah.
So I can walk you through workouts if you need that, which is downloadable in the iTunes Store or Google Play.
I'm actually...
There's a plug if you need one.
Legit going to put a link to that.
Okay, it's actually really cool.
Well, the Youth Pastor Diet is finishing up.
Yes, which I fully support.
And I figured out that if I was going to be the top person has lost like 22% of their body weight. I would weigh 130 pounds.
That's less than me. I mean, you could try.
I think I would faint somewhere halfway in between.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good for you.
But for next steps, for like somebody who's
I agree with that.
They've lost weight, now they want to exercise some more. That could be an option, and they're not ready for the gym, because I wasn't ready for the gym when I first met you.
Yeah, no, it's definitely got. I mean, obviously we offer options and we coach you through everything that you do.
Yeah,
and it's audio supported for the cardio sections. There's also meditation, which, by the way, is a ministry of mine that they don't know really about. It's kind of under the radar.
So sneaky.
It's so sneaky. And then the strength portion is audio and video supported.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
No,
so I contribute to that.
It's a cool thing that you're a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And then you tell people nationally how to ride their bikes.
Yes. So I am a master coach in training and cycle programmer for the Gold Cycle program, which is part of the Gold Studio program. It's a boutique style cycle experience that's both HIIT training and steady state aerobic training.
So we've talked about this before.
So many words. I'm sorry, guys.
You make me a better person. You definitely make me a stronger person.
Physically.
And, many other ways. And so you have right now a fairly demanding job.
Yes.
And it is typical, or at least a stereotype, is that the minister would have the more demanding job, whoever is the minister in the relationship. So you've kind of had both stay-at-home mom experience, as well as now busy professional experience.
Yes.
So tell people listening a little bit about your experience as minister's wife.
Well, I think I don't know if our experience is unique in the fact that it started so early.
Very early.
Very early. So we were married at 21.
21.
And 6 months after we were married, you went into full-time ministry. It was full-time? Right away? It was like right away.
Yes, it was.
It was full-time interim, but then transitioned into full-time. Where, you/me, we were in charge of interns. Yep. And there was a high expectation of not only your performance, but my performance. That wasn't actually official, but was well known to the body. And right? Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, it was part of the rural, small town, big church experience.
Yes. And so my first experience with being a minister's wife came with the expectation that I would already understand the culture in which I was immersed in. So I mentioned earlier that, I grew up in Michigan my entire life.
Yeah.
And then we married, went to school, and had our first 2 children in Tennessee at this church.
Which are slightly different places, Michigan and Tennessee.
Right. A little bit different culturally, and then also like the church background that I came from. So I think my being young, new to being married, not having yet finished college, we did finish, by the way, but all of that, I was not quite prepared for the expectation that I would be able to assimilate seamlessly into the culture, and not only assimilate seamlessly, but that I would be a master of it, somebody who could use it and leverage it to minister to the youth effectively.
It was definitely a case of, some churches say, we hired you, not your spouse. They 100% hired both of us.
Yes. And didn't tell me. Well, I guess they did kind of allude to the fact that, I would need to be supportive, which, I was totally on board with that.
But
I am fully support that. The way that they defined.
Specific way of what that means.
They defined it as supportive. So instead of, letting us define what that was going to look like for us, it was what met their needs.
Yeah. And that, I was doing the math. We're just about at the halfway point. So
half there.
Yeah. So I served as the youth pastor in Tennessee, small church in Tennessee, for 6 years.
Yes.
And now we've lived here in San Antonio for 6 years, which is the third culture you've been a part of, essentially. So Michigan, upper Midwest, very southern Tennessee, and then San Antonio, which is southern in a sense, but because it's such a large city, 2 million people, that changes some of it.
Maybe a lot of it. Yeah. There's a lot in this new season, or in this new culture. There's a lot more of what I would have preferred. But that's just being...
you told God we weren't coming to Texas.
I did tell God I wasn't coming to Texas. I also... there's lots of things I've told God that I was going to do. But we know how all that works out. But I think what I appreciate about the San Antonio culture, and just what a large town has provided for me specifically, is anonymity when I want it. So it's small enough that I run into people I know at HEB, which is the local grocery store.
Only local grocery store.
It's the store that you go to. I can run into friends or people that I'm acquaintances with. But then I also, when I'm at church or church functions, not everybody knows that I'm connected to you. They don't they don't even know, like, that's weird to say, like, they don't know we're married, but I've had people say, like, like, after having known them for a few months, that they didn't even realize that we were connected in any way.
Well, and that's
take that as however you want.
Well, that's one thing, in that you support me in lots of different ways.
Yes.
So emotionally, in all these different ways. But you are not my number one volunteer.
Correct.
In Tennessee, that was the case until we had kids.
Yeah.
And then that changed dramatically. And then we've come here to San Antonio, and kind of getting a do-over in a church with a larger staff. So there are more ministers' wives to be able to blend in and kind of focus with and things like that. But also because it is a little bit of a bigger church, you have more of a chance to kind of be your own body.
Yes.
And you don't necessarily have to just be identified as Ronald's wife.
Correct. And it's different church culture as well. And then, like you said, it was a fresh start that we made a conscious effort, or I did, that I was not going to be that for you. And we knew that when we came here, because it was just going to be so hard to like restart everything, and that I would decide later if I wanted to be your number one volunteer. And it just has panned out in the way that that's not the ministry that God has called me to. And I really don't have any problems with that. Like, I do love middle schoolers, and I think it's what you do is very valuable with them. But I don't think that my voice is required in your ministry right now.
No, and that's been something that's been good for me, in that I don't just lean on you and expect you to fill holes in my ministry that, like, I should be filling with other leaders. Who God has given me and empowered me and things like that. And it allows you to focus on the other area that you have really felt like God is calling you to, which is the gym that you're working in, because those are people who need Jesus.
The house of games.
The house of games needs Jesus.
They do. Yeah, and I would say, not only do I have that digital format with the AMP app, where when I create a meditation and I'm speaking and directing people through different thought patterns, I have a physical ministry where I'm literally in some difficult situations with people where, it's 8:00 on a Sunday night and we're talking about, what does it mean to be alive, and why is that valuable, and why should they go on living? And then conversations with them about, well, how does an atheist handle this situation? Like, what thought process goes in your head, that not your head, but the people at the gym, what goes on in their heads, just so I can even have access, because I've never considered not believing in God in that extreme sort of a way.
Sure.
So, like, being exposed and being a listening ear to people who that's how they exist. That's the only logical path that they can see, and to offer just some compassion towards that, and an example of a Christian who's not going to like slam them. So there's multiple layers, obviously there are coworkers, and there are team members, and there are bosses, and then there are bosses of bosses of bosses of bosses that I end up being.
Who tweet me,
I'm not on Twitter, but like, they like my posts on Instagram, love it or whatever. And, there's just multiple layers that I have a chance to minister to others through.
So if you were going to give like practical tip for the minister's wife who is not number one volunteer, but is still very much married
very married to
Stay
the minister. Stay that way, please.
Love me forever. Who is married to the minister, but is not the number one volunteer. What would be some practical advice that you would give them for how they can support their husband from outside of their volunteer team deal?
Well, I think knowing your spouse is really important. So with you, I will verbally affirm.
Yes, please.
There are multiple ways that you receive effort. You want to feel affirmed, but like saying out loud, I think your ministry is valuable. I think you're doing a really good job. Hey, have you, it was a really good idea to recruit that volunteer because you were able to see their gifts. So knowing what your husband needs is really important.
Mm-hmm.
So for me and for you, it looks like that. And then also being really flexible with your schedule. So if you have something you want to do really bad, or you have like there are some things Ronald wants to do really bad,
may or may not be coming up like super soon.
Then like, what can I do to make that happen with a reasonable amount of effort? So like, how can I rearrange my work schedule to accommodate your events so that you don't have to worry about the children? And then also like find a way, if it's not authentic right now, but find a way to be authentically joyful when you help your husband. So like, when I'm dragging my feet, and when I'm like, fine, you can go and do that event if you want to. That sounds like a great time for you.
You never do.
But right. So like along the way,
Sure.
I have tried to find ways to be authentically happy and joyfully offer my assistance so that you can, instead of making you feel bad for being gone an extra weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that everybody wants to feel like their spouse wants to help, not just willing, but they want to help.
And I think for me, and this is what I've been learning over the last 2 years, and we've talked about this, is how I can be supportive of you in your, pursuits outside of the church and outside of ministry, because you have a professional career. Like, you're on a track.
I'm on a career. I officially have a career in fitness as long as my back heals.
Pray for you. Pray for L5S1,
yeah.
The disc in between there, working with herniated disc. I think people who listen to the podcast would know that because I've talked about it.
Well, thank you for caring. And if you don't, that's okay too.
That was the heart attack rule that I talked about a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
So how can I then, who is relatively busy minister, come along and support you? Which means that I might need to arrange some of my events. Yeah. Or I might need to be okay with the one who's not the one who's out more nights during the week, and it's you in this season, and so that means that I need to be working on me being joyful for the time that we get as a family, which is never enough for me.
Yes,
because I always want more,
and it's always too much for me.
Always too much. But
extrovert versus introvert.
Textbook, both of us. And so trying to figure out how I can support you, because your pursuits are worthwhile, even though they are not within the church context.
Right.
That's a big deal.
I think a lot of it has been communication between you and me that we've honestly had to rehash over the course of the last couple of months. And I think the biggest turning point that we had was the conversation where I told you that I feel like my pursuits are a burden to you. That I kind of challenged you, and I needed to in the heat of the moment to say, like, when have I ever acted like that in your direction?
You're right.
So, and we came to the conclusion that the way you were saying things to me impacted me just as much as what you were saying to me. And so the message I was receiving was everything would be easier if you would just.
Yeah.
And that phrase and that feeling was I was feeling like you what my pursuits were a burden to you and a burden to us and a burden to all of our success and our happiness. But what I asked you to say instead was, I know this is going to be a challenge. What can we do to make it work?
Right.
And I think both of us have just changed our verbiage to that. I mean, we just had this conversation. Like,
we did.
I'm going to have surgery next Wednesday. You have something you really want to do starting on Sunday. It's like, I don't want you to miss out. I want you here, but let's see what we can do to make it better. And it was, I'm going to set up like a line of friends to just, interact with and to, hey, on this day, can you just be my support person? Mm-hmm. And I mean, you've done it in other ways as well. But so for me, the biggest breakthrough with you supporting me with my pursuits outside the church is that we found a way to communicate that we were on the same team.
Right.
And it wasn't family against Bekah.
Mm-hmm.
It was, we're all over here just waiting for you to give up on this thing that you're doing over here. And that the language that we decided on was more of, we are a family and your pursuits matter. So how can we make this work?
Right. And that, for me, that was definitely a good learning process, one that I'm still working on getting better at and growing with. And so definitely the give and give
yes.
of supporting each other. Right. The give and give of making sure that we are equally as excited about, like when you nerd out about biking.
Wait, I do nerd out about, I'm also a cycle instructor.
Oh.
I do everything. It's ridiculous.
You do. But I
nerd out, I'm like, oh, I need you to listen to the RPM structure of my 45-minute class and how I've tailored it to the needs of the people. And isn't it cool that this transitions in and out and that we have 3 blocks of work here and 3 blocks of work here and we're going to do this move. And then I'm just like, I just need you to, I'm going to nerd out on you.
Yeah. It's like when I explained the really cool game I just made.
And I'm like, I have no idea what that's going to do, but it looks fantastic.
It's been learning, but you're saying, communication has been huge.
Yes.
And talking to each other, because that conversation wasn't just a one and done.
Correct.
We've revisited. And
I think it took us a few times to be really honest about how we were making each other feel.
Yeah.
Or like, obviously we're not in control of each other's feelings, but the effect that the words were having on us. Mm-hmm. Individually, and like being really honest, like, I'm trying not to be hurt, but like, no, but I am. Yeah. I'm hurt and your words are hurting or whatever, like, or even in the converse saying, when you said this, that had this effect on me. And
I felt supported.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so being honest about what is good for you and what's not good for you, because I could agree all the time to be in your ministry and be your number one volunteer, but I'm already overpeopled. And if I'm not honest about how introvert life works, mm-hmm. then I'm going to be overdrawn and I'm going to do a poor job of ministering to other people and going to be actually needing ministry, like being ministered to myself. And I think being able to be honest about even those little nuances is really important. And that's why I don't volunteer, because I'm already done.
Yeah.
I am overpeopled and I come home and I'm peopled. And then I go to church and I have to people more. Mm-hmm. And then I'm not ready for Monday where I'm people more all week long. And it would just be a constant cycle. And so there has to be a break somewhere. And then I think I just keep rambling, just keep talking to you. The one thing that we also changed was that, like, validating my work as a ministry.
Yeah.
And at one point we decided it was valuable that I was able to be fully there as a professional.
Yeah.
Because it was full of ministry opportunities.
And that was, something that I needed to warm up to.
Yes.
And it's taken me a while to get there, but hopefully you are feeling like I am there more now. Getting there more.
Yes. No, I mean, I think that we've had enough I've relayed enough conversations where people were pleasantly surprised by what I had to say
about the Christian faith,
about
and
whatever
your
it
walk
was,
and
right?
whatever
Like, yeah, like about how open I was, or like I think I've relayed enough to you that it's given you proof that it's ministry and not a detraction, that it's actually something that is worthwhile and not just like, oh yeah, fitness is my witness. Like, have you not ever heard the verse?
I haven't.
That's that is a t-shirt.
It has to exist.
It does. Oh, it absolutely is. And that I'm not saying that doesn't have value, but I think that in your mind, you had an idea of what ministry should look like.
Very specific idea.
Okay, I was
say.
not. No.
I
made the hand gesture.
No, but specific.
A specific idea of what it should look like.
Yeah.
And that if I, the expectation would be, if I'm not serving in your ministry, that I would be serving in some kind of ministry. And we identified that this is actually valuable ministry and something that I'm being effective in.
Yeah. No, 100%. And so to continue to butter you up.
Oh, just don't touch that.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at her IV from this last little thing that she had.
They blew my vein, yo.
Yeah, that's going to take a while to heal.
My fingers are numb a little.
I'm so
Don't
sorry.
be worried. We've got physicians in order.
Oh my gosh. We're just going to take care of
these two fingers were numb.
Are they still?
Well, they kind of go on and off.
Oh boy.
It'll be okay.
So if you are out there and are listening to this, my main takeaway that I hope you get from this, other than that my wife is fantastic, really is that whether you are a spouse who is serving in ministry or spouse who is supporting the other serving in ministry, be supportive of each other. Communicate, speak to one another, validate each other's pursuits, whether they be ministry or outside church ministry, which is, like we said, still the same. And really figure out how you can be each other's hero and superstar and cheerleader, I think is the word that I would love to make sure that Bekah thinks of me, that I am her cheerleader, and that I am wanting her to be the person that God has made her to be and ministering in the place God has you ministering right now.
Yeah, because it's not the nursery.
It is not.
Please don't put me in the nursery.
But babies are cute.
Sometimes. They can be.
Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you get something to think about and maybe some conversations that you can have with your spouse about ministry and what's going on. Continue to listen. If you have not yet done all the internet-y things like, subscribe, leave a rating and review. Leave a rating solely based on Bekah's comments. So 5 stars.
Or not.
Or, well.
Or go download the AMP app. Gold's AMP.
You should do that.
You should do that.
I'm going to put that in the show notes so that you can go and click those things. Thanks so much for listening and hanging out with us. We're gonna go to sleep now.
Probably not.
Oh well. Good night.